All right, coming to you once again on the Sent Podcast, Steve Splonskowski along with
Brad Gray.
And we have with us today Jennie Korsmo.
Hello.
Hey, Jennie.
Thanks for stopping by. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. I'm just going to get the microphone just a little closer.
There we are.
Right. Yep.
Perfect.
So we're going to talk a little today about an upcoming event here in the Diocese of Fargo. But before we get into that, I kind of just want to ask the question. It seems like there's a lot of healing ministries, kind of retreats going on in the Diocese of Fargo and also in the larger church. Is there a reason for all these healing ministries?
Well, if you look back to biblical times, which is where it all stems from, that was one of Jesus' main mission, was to heal. And so I think it all originates from that, and seeing the need now with people hurting, the need for reconciliation, the need for physical healing. If you go, like I said, back to biblical times, you see his miracles and the need for that there. And it is still obviously needed in today's world.
Well, I think that's an interesting point because you do think, you note how when Christ comes, the first thing he does is he heals, right? And I think a lot of the commentators of the current age will say that we're back in apostolic times, right? Christendom is over. And so in that sense that we have to go back to that first, until people are healed, they're not willing to hear the message of the gospel.
Yeah. I've heard it said that that God often gives us what we need by giving us what we want first. I mean, not always, but he comes to us in ways that first resonate, that open up the doors of curiosity, of possibilities. Sherry Waddell talks about this in her Forming Intentional Disciples, like these thresholds, right, of that we go through in opening up more and more to the gospel. And so it seems like that makes sense, kind of what you're saying, Jennie, with Christ's ministry. He's showing, first of all, that he has authority, but he's also showing he's responding to the hunger of the people, like the blind man put down through the roof, that he heals him, but really that was the lesser significant healing. First he says, your sins are forgiven, and then he heals him physically to prove that he has the authority to forgive sins. So I think that the Lord really does have that tenderness for us, right, in the midst of the woundedness that we all feel, right?
And it would help us as we go in the future and go on mission. And we talk about mission and evangelization. And that's really hard when you're hurting to go out there in the field and on mission.
Right. No, that's true. I think I guess we do recognize this when we do go on mission. Oftentimes when we're ministering to others, we ourselves are often deeply healed.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We even find that we have wounds that we didn't know were even there as we minister to others.
Yep.
So I think that's an important thing. And you had written an article, Jennie, entitled John Paul II Healing Center to Host Women's Retreat in Fargo in the New Earth recently, just talking about your own experience of going to one of their healing sessions. Tell us a little bit about that article. I mean, you shared a lot in that article, but it was a number of months ago, just your own experience of you're going there, you're going to this retreat to plan, right, a retreat back in this area. Yep. However, the Lord's message to you was a little different at that time when you got there. It was like, wait a minute, this might be about you.
Right. It was completely different. I went there on mission just to see what they did, see the logistics, see how we could play that in the Diocese of Fargo, or how we could offer that in, get all of the ins and outs of how the retreat worked. And my brain was definitely in that area. And then I was talking to one of the retreat speakers, Melissa, and she noticed that, and she said, it's okay, Jennie, if you want to just take your work hat off and receive. And so it was shortly after that we had Eucharistic adoration at the retreat, and that it became very personal to me, and I was able to encounter the Lord in that adoration and experience healing as a daughter of his.
Right. Well, actually, I want to go back to your article because I thought it was a really nice quote from the article that you'd written. He said, it was during adoration that there with Jesus before me, I encountered just how much God loves me now. And he gave his only son to be with me personally. I felt the strong and warm embrace of the Father as I encountered him through his son. I was brought into a deeper understanding of God's love for me as his daughter, and I felt that his fatherly love in my heart. He reassured me that he does not expect me to be perfect, nor do I need to earn his love. He gave it to me freely and has all along. That was kind of your quote from your article here at the New Earth, in the New Earth. Talk to us a little bit more about that, going back to you. I think you mentioned earlier in the article that you really had a relationship with Jesus and the Spirit and the Holy Spirit, but you really had never had this relationship with the Father. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Well, I had a relationship with the Father, but not a deep relationship that was kind of cemented on this retreat. I had been encountering him a little bit more in prayer as I opened myself up for that. But this retreat specifically is about our relationship, our main identity as daughters. And it's a safe space for us to explore that. There are no men at the retreat, with the exception of the priests who are there ministering to the women, and then those that come and hear confessions, and then maybe an audio sound guy. So it's really just for a place, a really safe area for women just to be vulnerable with other women. And the way that they break it up, they have 3 different speakers and then praise and worship music. And each of the speakers will use theology of the body, and they will also focus on one of the identities, either as daughter or sister or bride or mother. And even if your vocation does not bring you into that relationship, like let's say you're single, you don't really know vocation as mother, um, it still is something that you can relate to, that the way that they talk about it. And one of the main speakers, she also has infertility problems, but she always felt the call to be mother, and she really goes deeply into that. And so I was able to just enter into their stories and then realize in myself my own self-reliance, and everything just came together. So I think no matter where you are as a woman, when you have a little bit of self-esteem struggle or whatever, you can relate to these women and the way they put it together and use theology of the body and the gospel, and the way that they bring in Jesus through the Eucharist, and they have the priest there for reconciliation. It just offers so much opportunity for healing and to explore within your own soul.
It's Brad and I talk oftentimes when we're working in men's ministry, how when you have a men's retreat, you have just men there and you have no women present, because the dynamic completely changes when even maybe like 1 or 2 women walk in the room. It's like the men kind of change.
Yeah.
So we recognize it as men. What's the atmosphere when, how does it change when women are all by themselves and then a man? What's that difference? Where you said it's important for you to get away where it's just women and not men. There's a dynamic that changes. What is that for women? I mean, we recognize it as men, right? But I think for us as men, we'd probably say like, guys are not going to be vulnerable when a woman is around, because it's like, we got to be strong, we got to be, whatever. We have to be, we can't share our feelings. But when the women leave, we're all like, okay, we're all the same here, right, guys? So if I cry, you're not going to laugh at me. It's like, if I, show a weakness, you're not going to think less of me. What is that for women? What's that atmosphere like?
Women don't want to show their weakness either. We're groomed by society to not be weak, even though in our bodies and through our bodies, we are built to receive. But it is very hard for women to receive. A lot of times we're more like Martha than we are like Mary. We just want to work. We want to take care of everybody. We feel that's our role. And it's hard for us to just let go and receive whatever God the Father has in store for us. And it's easier when you're around other women. And a lot of women experience wounds that are caused by men, either intentionally or not intentionally. And so without men there, it's just a safer space.
Yeah, I think of this reality, how we as men, we're kind of wired to go outside, slay the beast, bring it home. But one of the things that's an Achilles heel of a man is, like, if we don't think we can accomplish a job, we're very prone to just checking out.
Right.
Whereas a woman will just give until there's absolutely nothing left to give. It's just like, get up. And the fascinating thing is, like, a lot of times what we have as tasks, and again, these are broad strokes, right? But a lot of times the task we have is like, go out and do this thing, accomplish that task. Whereas a lot of times the tasks that have historically been those that women have taken under have been like, make a meal, do dishes, something like that, things that don't actually ever end. Like, you don't get the meal done and now I just don't have to worry about that anymore because the next one's ready to go. And the dishes, like, it's just this constancy of giving. And I think as much as women seem to be oriented relationally and they have sort of a naturalness about that, it does seem like what you're saying is absolutely true, that it can be really hard for women to move out of that give role into the receive role. Like when you're saying you're there, like, I'm here to make sure that this is all going to be right and we know what to do, and so that everyone can experience this well when they're here. And pardon me, that can be really tough as a woman, if I'm not mistaken, to just receive that because you're so constantly having to pour yourself out. Is that accurate?
That's completely accurate. It reminds me of once when we were doing one of our Redeem conferences, and Bishop Folda's like, Jennie, you need to sit down and eat. And at that moment, I just wanted to organize the next thing. I had no interest in eating a meal. And that just cements that
Yeah.
it's just, please let me just work right now.
Yeah.
I will eat later.
And those poopy diapers just keep coming, as a mom, and it's just it's really remarkable. But I know when you came back, it was awesome hearing about how having that little shift really was profoundly impactful for you, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
And I know that that's something that you're excited to be able to share with other women, right?
Absolutely. I feel like they do such a good job, and that no matter where a woman is in her life, that often she struggles with that self-reliance, maybe realizing it, maybe not, and that it just helps you relate to that and really aids in your ability to receive, just to take that time and receive. And it does help that there aren't men there because you're not thinking about serving them. It helps that there are not other little kids running around because you're not thinking about taking care of them or being grandma or whatever role in that moment. You are able to just receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just coming off of the Eucharistic revival, I think one of the things, obviously we're talking about healing right here. And the Eucharistic revival was really a kind of a reminder of who the true healer is, right? Jesus Christ. And you mentioned, of course, Jennie, in your article about being in adoration. Here in September, we'll have the canonization of 3 Eucharistic saints. We'll have Carlo Acutis, Pier Giorgio Frassati, and then also Peter to Rode, right? Yeah. To Rode will be, and they all have one of the similar things to all their stories is they had a deep Eucharistic life. So with these healing events that are coming, I assume that there's Eucharistic adoration as a part of that, probably a pretty central part of that. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, they do a healing service with it. They like to keep that a little bit of a surprise, but there is time for adoration every day, I believe. Mass is not included necessarily; it's optional. The way they have the retreat set up is that you can go in the evening, and then Thursday night you go in the evening, Friday, and then it's all day Saturday. So that way, working women are able to come and receive as well. And so that's part of why Mass is optional. But when you're on retreat like that, I think it's important to take that time if you can and make it to Mass. And we're blessed in Fargo to have daily Mass offered from basically 7 a.m. to 5:15 p.m. So they should be able to make it work somehow.
Yeah. And this is going to be such a blessing for so many women. I know you and I have been excited in kind of beginning this partnership with the John Paul II Healing Center because they are one of the most prominent Catholic healing entities out there right now. And generally speaking, it takes like 4 years to get on their calendar. And just kind of through God's providence, He opened up doors for them to bring in this undone women's healing retreat. And then we're going to look to bring on a series of other retreats in the upcoming years. But I just know that you and I have both been feeling this very much for the last several years, like the need for healing. And we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but I remember going on, my wife Lisa and I went on a couples retreat back years ago at Broomtree down in South Dakota. And the priest that was leading the retreat, Father Scott Traynor, had made the remark about how every one of us we're made to be loved perfectly. Infinitely and perfectly, and yet no one experiences that. And so all of us universally are wounded because we have not received what we've been made to have. And I think that's what the John Paul II Healing Center is really striving to bring Jesus into those wounds, right?
Yep, absolutely. And it is something that started with the retreat for me, with that really cementing in the relationship with God the Father. But it has continued in prayer since then, of me asking that I can see myself through His eyes versus looking at myself and casting judgment on myself, which is also, I think, huge for women. I don't know if it's as big as a struggle for men or not, but I know that women can be pretty hard on themselves, struggle with perfectionism. They look in society how they're supposed to look or act, and they want to do that. And so seeing myself as God the Father sees me is super important in my prayer life, in my relationship with him. And I just have fallen in love with him all the more.
I think that's really at the core of it. Like the found you'd mentioned the four identities of being beloved daughter, trusted sister, chaste spouse, and loving mother, right? But really at the core of it all flows out of being a beloved daughter. And sometimes there can be the tendency to just go past that because it's not as productive, or it doesn't accomplish the things of taking care of people the same way that some of the other ones might, right?
Right. Yep. And
Yeah.
we're just wired and trained.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you, Jenny, you mentioned too the kind of this perfectionism that we place upon ourselves. And you mentioned like maybe men don't have that. I think that's actually the root, maybe the root sin for all of us. So the main root sin is pride, of course. But we know that Christ through Scripture says, you're called to be perfect as your Father's perfect. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, "Well, you're called to be perfect as our Heavenly Father's perfect." I'm like, yes, except for he's the one that does the perfecting.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
We can't. But I think we're all guilty of that sense of we really place this guilt upon ourselves for not being perfect. But we actually can't be perfect without the grace of God, without the relationship. And he's really the one who opens the door to that.
And in our society, I mean, just the way we are in the USA, in our Western society, that's what we strive for.
Right.
Is that success.
Right.
And it seems to me that it can be really difficult to feel delighted in, right? When we speak about being a beloved son or daughter, a lot of times we don't really allow ourselves to go into that area. And I think that I know, again, you and I have shared a lot about this, and like how profoundly significant, imperative it is that we actually experience like the Father loving us, that he's choosing us, that he's delighting in us, and all of the rest. That like that's where all of our mission and all of the things that we do, it all flows out of that, right?
Well, I think it's true. I mean, that's where we go back to on of our own woundedness, we wound others. And I was just thinking, like, as we were talking, I was thinking, okay, so I have this own self-perfection thing that I can't deal with. So since I can't deal with my own imperfections, I look for imperfections in others that I can call out in them so that I can feel better about myself, right? So then we find ourselves in judgment of others' imperfections, and yet I go like, I'm just as guilty of all those imperfections that I see in other people.
It may not be intentional that we
it's
wound
not.
other people.
I think it's not.
But we do it, and people that probably aren't even aware of the wounds that we cause other people all the time.
As parents, I think it can be especially agonizing because a lot of times our kids inherit the things that we don't like about ourselves. It's bad enough in us, but when we see it in someone else that's under our authority, it's like, oh, just mending, right?
I think one time I had mentioned to my kids, I said, I feel like 75% of my bad habits my kids pick up, and the 25%. And my son's like, thanks, Dad. All we have is bad habits. I'm like, no, that's just from my perspective. The things that I don't want to pass on, I feel like I'm passing on, and I don't want to be doing that. And that's part of our woundedness. And coming back to this sense that all we can really do for healing is we receive, right? That healing that we do is receive, but the Lord does invite us to reach out. We have to ask for that. We're talking about prayer, and in some of our other podcasts, we're like that. Really, what the prayer doesn't change the Lord, but it changes us because we open our hearts, we call out to the Lord, and He has the willingness. We're willing to receive because we've called out, so then He can respond and heal us.
In prayer, a long time before this retreat, one thing I received is that you should look at each person and see the face of Jesus. And so that's something I really try to do because I don't want to continue that, that cycle of, I'm not perfect at it by any means, but it's something I strive for.
Yeah. Say, Jenny, I was wanting to ask you something about this aspect of going into healing. If we're being honest, that can be fairly terrifying. Right? Because, it means looking at the things that are difficult, that are painful.
It means being vulnerable.
It means being vulnerable.
Yep.
And that can be a horrifying thing to do. So I just want to see if there are encouragement, any words of encouragement you would have to someone that's like, you know what, I really want this, I need this, but I'm scared. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to take steps of pursuing healing.
It's not something you can do. To keep that in mind, that the only person that can really do that for you and in you and through you is Jesus.
Mhm.
So surrendering it to him, praying about it before you go, and just really being open to his grace and
Mhm.
encountering him. Also, of course, being up with the sacraments, like if you've received the sacrament of reconciliation, you're going to be more disposed
Mm.
to receiving grace from him. And so just that's the encouragement I would
Mhm.
leave people with, is just to go in with that attitude, knowing you can't do it, you can't heal yourself, that it has to come from Jesus, and surrender it to him. And even if you can't surrender that to him, then you're going to want to go back even a step and ask for the ability or to want that desire to
Mhm.
surrender it.
Mhm. And if we know that like he's the one that does the work, there's a certain safety in that,
Yep.
right? Versus like, what if I fail at that? What if I don't get it right, or don't go into the right places and that sort of thing? I mean, it can be liberating in some ways, knowing like this isn't all on me to fix myself, right?
Right. Or if you're in desolation, you're not
Mhm.
hearing his voice.
Mhm.
It can be very discouraging
Sure,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So the name of these retreats is retreats. It's called Undone.
The name of the women's retreat.
The women's
is-
retreat is name
Yep.
is Undone.
Yep.
What does that mean? Is that like undoing of a knot, or is it what's the undone phrase?
Well, it does have to do with that undoing of knots in our lives, the wounds, bringing them to be healed, the expectations versus reality, that sort of thing. All of those things combined.
I think there is also that element of, gosh, I can't think of if this was a father of the church or the scriptures, where it talks about how Mary undoes the knot of Eve's disobedience.
Yeah.
Mary's obedience undoes the knot of Eve's disobedience. So, because the fact of the matter is, our wounds aren't always inflicted from the outside, right? Sometimes they're the result of our own sinfulness,
Correct.
of
Yep.
our own betrayal, all of us have done horrible things. We're all desperately in need of a savior, and so we've all tied our own knots as well as having them tied by others, right? And so it's having the ability for the Lord and Our Lady to come in and untie those in our lives, right?
And one of my favorite patrons or patronages of Mary that Pope Francis had a renewed was the Our Lady Undoer of Knots,
Mhm.
which I think was a great
Yep.
kind of the sense
Yeah.
of that we're just kind of tied up, and we need Mama to come over and
Yep.
and untie all these knots we've tied ourselves into.
But one thing that's kind of cool about that is if it's just a knot that's tied up, it's not me. I'm not utterly broken. It's just like things in my life are kind of disordered, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a healthy message to hear too. Like it's not that I am just utterly depraved and there's no hope for me. Like no, I am made good by God. I'm made for fullness. I'm just tied up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, inhibited.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, well, it's great. So these retreats are coming up. Give us some more details on the retreats that are coming up and when they are and how people can sign up for them.
All right. So on our website, there will be a link to the JP2 Healing Center. That is who you will sign up through, but we'll have we'll answer questions or whatever here as well about them.
And that's open today, right? I
Yeah,
mean, this opens up today.
The
Is
registration opens today. They do tend to expect sellouts on these. We haven't had one in our area, so I'm not sure on that, but it will
But
probably
people
fill
come
up.
from all over the country.
Yeah,
for the-
people are willing to
Okay,
fly
so
in for
sign up
these.
now.
Yeah. And so the first one that we have is the women's one, which is the one that opens today. That's Undone, and that is November 20th through the 23rd. And then we plan on having one in March of 2026 for men, or hosting one. We don't do anything but host it. And then in September of 2026, we hope to bring in Healing the Whole Person. And then after that, we will have one for married couples. So it's going to be a series of retreats that will hopefully open us up into healing and just offer more of that. Like we've done those healing services at the Redeemed conferences, and that's what really solidified
Yeah,
it for
absolutely.
us, that we needed to bring in more healing.
So these retreats are actually at parishes, right? And they're not. There's you basically come for the day and then go home, right? Is that kind of the setup?
Yep.
How does it work?
Yep. So they're all a little structured a little bit differently, but Undone, the one that we're going to do first, is Thursday night, Friday night, and then all day Saturday. And we'll host it at St. Anne in Joachim. They graciously offered to have it over there for us. So,
And the reason you have these facilities is because they expect thousands of people to show up for these,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
That's kind of their thing. So it's
Yep.
not. This is not a small retreat thing. It's a big, almost like a conference almost.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that they do it that structure so that like people that are in the area, they don't even have to take off time from work. They
Right.
could still work Thursday, Friday, and attend the retreats
All
in the
day
evening
Saturday.
and then all day Saturday.
Yep.
So it starts at what time on Thursday?
I want to say 7 p.m. I
So
wanna
let's say it. Let's say 7
Let's
p.m.
say
You just did.
Yeah.
If we're wrong in the details,
Check
look
out
at
the website.
Yeah.
And the website again is the
It's
website.
fargodiocese.org/undone.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's the easiest way to get it.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Any other things you'd like to share?
I'm good.
Thank you for that.
Well,
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Jenny, especially
Yes.
for really having the impulse and the desire to bring this in. I know that you and I both gotten to experience some of the JP2 Healing Center retreats. I've only gotten to do them online so far. You got to do it in person. Like, if you can do it in person, right? Definitely do it in person.
Definitely do it in person.
Right.
I got to fly to Florida in January to go, and it snowed in Florida.
Yeah.
January.
So thanks a lot for that.
She's like, I'm trying to get away from the snow, but I guess I get healed anyway.
But it was the people in Florida were so excited about the snow that it was kind of contagious
Yeah.
That's
for
funny.
everyone else. So I think it added to the retreat, made it even better.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
So-
And that said, I mean, I got to do the couples retreat and the healing the whole person online, and it was still tremendously powerful for me. So if that's all that someone's able to do, I think it's still well worth your time.
Yep. And this will be offered online too.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it's
right.
here. I
Yeah.
mean, I think you should come in person if you can, but it
Mhm.
will be offered online if you can.
All right. Very good. We'll check it out on the diocesan website. Again, dioceseoffargo.org/undone.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Well, again, Jenny, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Brad,
Thank you.
Yes.
always a
See you.
pleasure.
Jenny,
All right.
listeners.
We're gonna head out, folks. Again, this is our episode of the Sent podcast. Thanks for joining us. God bless.